All right. My wife and I had some sort of a disconnect on dinner. I was like, I'm hungry. Feel so bad. All right. We are going to get going here on Beginner Boost Day 4. So, I'm already 2 minutes over my normal time. I don't know. Let me ask you guys really quick. This is the problem with starting on time. People like wander in kind of late. You know what I mean? So if I start on time, this is an age-old problem I've had even when I've been teaching at school and stuff. If I start on time, then people get used to knowing that I start on time, and then they end up figuring out that they're late, and then they learn to come early. If I say, we'll wait for 5 minutes for people to come around, people figure out that there's an extra 5 minutes, and so they're still 5 minutes late. So the way my theory goes on this is people who are going to be late are always going to be late, no matter what time you start. And so if you keep pushing it back, they'll keep being late for that time and you end up losing the time. So as of tomorrow at 7 o'clock, I am going to start with our lesson or whatever it is that we had to do. And so if you're not here at 7, like at 7, you can go see the VOD and you won't learn anything. There's a really good chance I'll actually start my first video at 7. I'm going to try to, I obviously have a certain amount of administrative stuff that I have to do at the beginning, so we'll let that go, but I can't guarantee that's going to be the case every time. All right. What's that? Regex Black Magic. Keep it at him. I know it rears to the 0th argument, which is the name of the script, and I know that somehow cuts away the path and returns just the script name, but I don't know. We're talking about some sort of script. You guys are looking at scripts together. Oh, parameter expansion. Yeah, that's what's going on. That's parameter expansion, guys. That is the same as base name. So just let me let you know that. So the answer to your question is that that $0 thing you posted, that is a parameter expansion that is exactly the same as calling base name, the command base name, which gives you, this is a little bit of fun trivia here. We're going to get into shell scripting. It's actually the first scripting language the first language we're going to learn to code. And there's some cryptic stuff here. So one of the things is this. So if I did, I don't know, foo equals some bar. So there we go. If we do foo, right, that'll just echo foo. But if I say I want to chomp all the way, I want to chomp everything up to the first slash, and you just get bar, which is exactly the same as base name bar foo. Same thing. Difference is that base name is an executable that has to be invoked with a subshell. We're going to talk all about that when we do shell scripting. That's actually one of the reasons I want to learn shell scripting first, even though it's very non-traditional to start with shell scripting first. I think it's going to give you a really solid handle on what's going on the command line. And you might as well just learn the if statements and logic and stuff, and boom, you got a language under your belt. Why not? So that's what's up with that. All right, so let's go back, and I've been working on a lot of stuff today, making a workspace builder thing, and that's because today we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff with we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff with containers, I believe, today for the first time. And shell can make you feel dangerous. It is. It's dangerous and awesome. How's it going, D-Flare? Welcome, everybody. So let's go back to where we are again. So if you're new, the source of all truth and knowledge for the boost, here's one space to go. It's in this is in the title today, but this is where you want to bookmark. Bookmark it, star it, watch it, RSS feed, follow it if you want to, because if anything at all changes here, you want to know about it if you want to stay up on the boost. And I decided to make this a repo instead of, I decided to make this a repo instead of a, what do you mean S command not found? Did I break my script? I think I did. Uh-oh, bad me. There we go. So I've been playing with my path today, in case you're wondering. So that's the best way, the most efficient way to do this, because it can search everything. You can go in there and you can search for things that are missing and find it and all that. If I was doing this as a website, that would take a lot more effort to keep that maintained. That's actually what got us last week and last time and every other time. So I'm in the process of putting all knowledge that I have whatsoever into one of like 5 repos that are based on Zettelkasten, which we did a video about 2 days ago. So if you're new and you're wondering, you're going to be lost. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're new, you're going to be lost. You need to go back and watch day 0, day 1, and day 2. Okay? And day 3. We are on day 3, aren't we? Or did I get it wrong? A little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep and taste not the Pierian spring. Their shallow draughts intoxicate the brain, and drinking literally sobers us again. That's cool. The sound is quite low. I don't. That would be inconsistent with the indicators I have, unless there's something else here. I'm showing my sound as high. Does anybody else have that for that? All right, just checking. Thank you for the coffee, woman from outside of the screenshot. Bye. So, I think I might have the day wrong. What day is it today? We're on day 4, right? Day 3 was okay. Day 3 was Linux and Unix. We talked about the Linux approach yesterday, and we're good to go. So now we're back to day 4, getting on the terminal. And this actually, you notice I didn't put containers into day 4. We might be able to fit this in today, but I don't want to push this really hard. So what is the goal for day 4? Today's goal is to get a terminal for you working. All right. And as usual, the purpose of Beginner Boost is not to do it for you. It's to help you get through it, help you learn on your own. It's to show you what you don't know, help you, understand what those things are, and then help you, as a community, figure out how to do those things. So you're not going to see a lot of videos from me showing you step by step how to do things, because there's tons of stuff out there about that. And if there isn't, then we will do it. But in this particular case, there's not a lot of stuff to say. So what I'm going to tell you to do right now, if you haven't done it, is first of all, if you have a Mac, you need to get a terminal. All right. And I've thought about doing this. I actually have the equipment to do it. It's just not set up right now to actually plug a Mac in and show you how to use a terminal on a Mac. But I'm going to attempt to do that by identifying some resources online, some videos and stuff to show you that you can go watch the same thing. But the bottom line is you can just open up a Mac and have a terminal and get it working. And same thing with Windows. You can just open up a console, type CMD, and you've got a Windows terminal. Now, Windows is going to take a little bit more doing, and we're going to get into that. And I'm just overviewing the day, and then we'll go through this kind of as one POMO session at a time for each one. And we'll address the questions about VS Code and whether the terminal there is okay, and Alacrity and Kitty and all that. And let's put Kitty up here. All these other great terminals that are out there and what to do about those. And we're going to talk about WSL. And actually, WSL comes down here a little bit farther on, but we are gonna talk. Actually, let's put it in here. What about WSL on Windows? Okay, so, and I've actually had some new information on that, so we'll cover that. All right. So that's the overview for today. So the goal for today is for you to be on a terminal. It might not be pretty. If we're going to spend any time at all today customizing the terminal to be pretty and look pretty for you, which isn't always a factor of the terminal itself. Sometimes it's it's like directory colors and things like that. There's some other configurations you have to set up, and we'll get into that. But just the baseline theme, stuff like that. What can you do with the theme? How can you change it and things? And so that's what we're going to cover. These three here are all about Windows. So I'm going to keep these under Windows, and we're going to do Mac, and we'll do Mac here. Mac is actually really easy. And is there, I mean, I don't imagine there's anybody out there. If you have Linux, I don't have to tell you what to do. You just click on it. Okay. So the only videos I'm going to have to, so let's do the Linux one really fast during this POMO. If you have Linux, just push the command key, super key, Windows key, whatever you want to call it, and type terminal and hit enter. There's your terminal. It'll pop. You have a terminal. That's all you have to do. And then you can go in and configure your terminal. So actually, let's start with Linux before we end this one. So if you happen to have Linux installed, and we're not going to talk about whether you should install Linux or not. We talked about that yesterday. Go back and watch day 3, particularly the end of day 3. We talked all about what I recommend you should do. You don't necessarily have to install Linux on hardware, but go back and watch that. So if what about but if you have Linux and you've got it installed, it's pretty easy. You just, and you go to your preferences here. I'm using GNOME terminal. We're not going to get into the specific terminals. If you have questions about your terminals during the breaks and stuff, let us know, and we're here to help you set that up. But I really don't want to lose a lot of time on this, because really we just want to work from the terminal, even if it's just black and white. Now, I do like to have my terminal colored, even if it is just a Docker container. So we're going to spend time with that. You can just go in here and change the themes if you want to do that. If you're on... well, we'll get into the different themes. What's your font and everything? On Linux, I prefer Ubuntu Mono Nerd font, which you can go install if you want to. The installing fonts is outside of the scope of this. We're not going to talk about that. But it's not hard. Most of the time when you go out to find a font, you just download it and you double click the file and it says, do you want to install this font? And you say yes. That happens on Mac, Windows, and Linux exactly the same way. So as you're out there browsing for fonts, make sure you get a safe one. Some of you asked how to get the emojis and stuff in your font. I would strongly suggest Nerd fonts. I did a video called What's Your Font? If you want to go watch that video. But otherwise, if you just go search for Nerd font, let me see here. Yeah, if you just, what have I done? Did I break my terminal? I did. I feel so dumb. I'm going to have to kill it right now. Yeah, I did. I broke my terminal. You know why? There, that's better. All right, so CD boost. Yeah. I'm sorry. You know what? It's because I was messing with my script path, and so I broke stuff. But it's good to break stuff because you can fix it again. Don't worry. Never fear. So I actually don't need to do much here. I could just do Tmux live. Duplicate session Twitch. Do we already have one going on? Okay. Tmux-T. Don't worry about this, guys. Tmux-. Is it just T? Yeah. No. What have I done? I'm sorry. I'm running. I changed my Tmux configure. I did a lot of stuff today, so now I have a problem with this. So we're just gonna go ahead and tail. I'm just gonna run WeChat down here again. What I did is I moved WeChat over to off the server now. It's actually local. That you won't know what that means, but we'll eventually talk about that. All right. So. I don't know why it's doing that. It should not be doing that. I must have an error in my Tmux. I don't know why that is. I don't. I'm worried. I'm actually legitimately worried. No, what have I done? All right, so let me try this again. Okay, so give me a second here. I should have checked all this stuff before. I was trying to I was trying to do it too fast and I lost my way. Can you still see what I say? Hello there. IRC is not a buffer. This is a buffer. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. There we go. This is not a channel. This is not a channel. And I am now identified as the right person. All right. Hey there. Is that working? Wait, did that not work? Oh, that's RBX. Hey there. RC, this buffer is not a channel. I think I broke my Twitch IRC. 1 minute 50 to fix it. No, I'm not going to fix it. I'm done. Nope, I'm just going to move on. We're going to move on. Yeah, I'm not going to waste you guys' time. But I mean, it's stuff I can play with if you guys want to know later. It's for some reason my Twitch isn't logging in, so and it's not working on my system server. I mean, I know one way I could do it. Wait, did it work? Oh my gosh, it finally worked. It took forever. All right, so good. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better. There's something going on there. I don't know what. I'll figure it out. That's what it's all about. It looks like I have a problem with my other TMUX here, so that's kind of the issue here. I think I've changed TMUX somehow to not be happy, and I have a feeling it's because it doesn't have a TMUX thing. So, yeah, I was just gonna say, unset TMUX, TMUX. See, I don't understand what's going on with that. Something's going on. My TMUX is not happy. I don't know why. So we'll just keep it there. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm quite certain it's because I did not change my TMUX configuration stuff. So yeah, anyway, the crazy thing is that the B1 is working, so we'll just keep that one working. Okay, fine. All right, that was an unnecessary break. So we're gonna start a new, whatever you want to call it. Oh, you want to swap? You guys want to see something cool? Let's see. Swap pane from 1 to 2. There. Fish. There. All right. So first things first, next things next, whatever you want to call about that. You know what else you can do with TMUX? You can actually type directly to it. Yeah. I know there's a show called Fish. It's kind of a joke. Time for us to do a video. So, and I've already actually sort of done this video, but we'll go ahead and do it again. No, not anything yet. We're about to do it right now. So, just me messing around. So the new topic will be, let's do a topic called, getting Windows, get Windows Terminal. That is the current topic. And so get a Windows terminal. This is gonna be really weird because you're just gonna see me with a Linux terminal here talking about this. And I'm not, I'm trying to keep this fast. So how do you get a Windows terminal? Well, there are many ways to get a terminal. So the first thing you should know, and I'm gonna see if I can show you this just through, pictures. Windows terminal. And we'll go see what we can find here. We'll go open up this one and a new browser. So this is the Windows terminal you want. It's really sexy. You want to see the video? It's got a pretty cool video that goes with it. I mean, I have nothing to do with Microsoft, of course, but the video is kind of fun. It takes like a few seconds. The new Windows terminal. I have to tell you, this is a big deal because because it has, where is the promo? Here it is. You guys ready? I gotta put my earphones on. Because I like the music. It's like they try to be like all cool like Apple. You guys ready? Oh. Doesn't this make you want to use Windows? It might be like, oh my god, it's like so loud. It blew my ears out.
I move with style. I know you know how to run wild.
PowerShell. Now don't you just want to go do PowerShell?
Over the spotlight.
Look at those backslashes.
I'm on a roll, ready for the show now. It's go time. Watch what I do. Watch what I do. I see you looking. Watch what I do.
I just got muted for that. You watch, this video is going to get muted and like banned by Microsoft and blah, blah, blah. It's an advertisement, for God's sake. You think they would like that I played it for them. But YouTube, who knows what they're going to do. Actually, there's a number of things in this that I want to show you that argue for you to get the new Windows terminal. This is 2019. I actually saw this when they did the what was it? Is it Edge? They call it. They have their conference over at Microsoft. And that was the first time I saw WSL 2. I watched hours and hours of videos from the internals teams. I watched the people talking about it who worked on this terminal. They talked about all the challenges they had getting off of the old terminal. You can understand it. The command terminal from Windows has been the same for decades. Yeah, and well, it's funny. Somebody mentioned they like the right click. We've been middle clicking from Unix forever. So I do think it's kind of cute that people are like realizing that the way the mouse was originally intended to be used, Engelbart, that's how he wanted a 3-button mouse, is the original mouse style, not what Microsoft made. And it had a right, it had a middle click to do paste. You would select and then you would push a button for middle click and it would paste. And so it's funny because a lot of Microsoft people with the new Windows terminal are like, oh my God, you can right click and it just pastes. You don't have to even use your keyboard. I'm like, yeah. That's how it was invented in 1969. And then it took Microsoft to screw it up and cause everybody to have to do Control-C, Control-V for the rest of their lives, even though that was, that's an interrupt and all those other reasons. Every terminal has paste, yeah. So, this is a terminal you want. I did make a video complaining about it. There's a couple of things I don't like about it. I think you can get it for Linux. I do. I think you can get it for Windows terminal for Linux. Yeah, I thought that was really weird. It's like, how to install? Yeah, add terminal and new Windows terminal. No, that's different. So this is different. We're gonna do this next. Here's what I saw. Some lots of good videos on here. Watch other people. You don't have to watch me for this. So get it. Go get it. You go get it from the store. If you're working in an enterprise that doesn't have access to the store, you might have to do some extra things to get it. And stuff. So the Windows Terminal just did it, and you don't. Okay, when you watch a lot of videos about the Windows Terminal, you're going to see things. They're going to tell you. Can I get it for here? I don't think I can. No, I don't think I want to. They're gonna tell you stuff about WSL and Unix and all this stuff. Don't bother with that stuff yet. That's tomorrow. Okay. So tomorrow we're gonna do that. If you want to take your hand at it, you can do that. I'll spoiler alert. Tomorrow we're gonna be installing Docker, and that means on Windows that you want to install WSL2 and then Docker Desktop. And if you have WSL or WSL2, see, somebody asked about so strictly speaking, Windows Terminal is not the same as WSL. Not the same. WSL is the Windows subsystem for Linux, and so you can actually install the Windows Terminal and use the command prompt in PowerShell before you ever install WSL2. Most people, however, will probably read about people setting up WSL2 and then installing Windows Terminal, which will show that it has it in there. It'll have a little tab, and you can go run Linux from there. And there's a number of problems with WSL2 for Linux. some of which I've documented very vocally. I did a big rant about why WSL2 is busted, particularly if you're using AnyConnect from Cisco, which a lot of people are for the VPN. You can't even connect. There's a big firewall issue, and so okay. So if you this is the goal for Windows people. Windows people have the most work to do for the next 2 days. Okay. You have the most work to do. Linux has already got a terminal. Mac's already got a terminal. The Windows people are going to have to go through a number of steps. So I'm just going to talk about those steps right now. This video is supposed to be about Windows Terminal. But if you want to go ahead and do that first, we'll make another video about WSL2. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video right now. And you guys just know that that's the end of that one. All right. So next video though, so let's do this. Let's do, well, okay. So yeah, first of all, all right, let me start by saying nobody has to install these things if you don't want to. All right. So let's do a video about that. So let's do a video about that really quickly. Okay, so let me do another video. Add a stream marker. All right, so we're going to talk about this really quickly as well. So we've talked about installing some of the other terminals, particularly Windows Terminal, which is for Microsoft, which means that they track you and they do different things. You can try to find ways to just disable that. Yeah, and it's really up to you how much of that you're okay with. But what I'm going to suggest against is something that I used to actually really like, and I don't like it anymore. It's a terminal from the Rust people called Alacrity, and there's some other stuff in, I don't know where Kitty's from. There are a lot of alternative terminals out there that run everywhere. And the biggest argument for using Alacrity and Kitty is almost always a consistent configuration and a consistent experience across all operating systems. So a lot of people like that, and they push it a lot. Other streamers have had people pushing it on their streams as well. The guy, Undead Leech, who's one of the maintainers for the Alacrity project, was a regular here for a long time. He's actually made transparency in our ASCII aquarium. But I got to tell you straight up that I have run into significant bugs with Alacrity. At first, they were just annoyances. But the biggest bug that I recently encountered with Alacrity, which they might fix eventually, was on Windows. If I was in full screen with Alacrity and I got a notification of any kind, it would not only would it not display it properly, it would reposition my buffers and auto scroll my screen. And so every time a notification came up, I had no idea where I was. I had to refresh my screen, heal it with Control L, and I had to go find my spot where I was. That is not okay. That is a completely unworkable solution. And it also doesn't do all of the ANSI terminal escapes and some of the colors and stuff that I like to use. And it doesn't have support for blank. And it's just missing a lot of stuff still, because it's still a beta project. It's not really finished. It's wicked fast. It's GPU accelerated and all of that. But these days, you really don't notice the difference if you're using a terminal. So I suggest, particularly to the people who are just beginning, to use what's easiest for you to install and get going with. And especially for the learning process. I mean, if you are so afraid of Microsoft sniffing you, you probably shouldn't even put Microsoft on your computer at all. You can't say, well, I don't want telemetry in my Windows terminal, but I'm also okay with Windows, period. Because Windows. So if you're gonna drop the telemetry, drop Windows. Or learn to use a container and just use it within the container. And when you set up Docker container and stuff like that, the terminal's not going to know anything about what's going on in there unless there's something in there that I'm not aware of. So, but when it comes to Alacrity and Kitty, I would just say no to that. And that's a really short video to just tell you why I don't like Alacrity and Kitty these days. I do have a configuration for it. I really like the YAML configuration that you can set Groovebox or whatever you want. there's a lot of things. You can change transparency just by changing the file. I really hate Microsoft Windows really hidden path to its JSON configuration file. It is really hard to pull that thing out and put it in and save it someplace so you can do it again. There's a graphic. You have to use the graphic interface to change the configuration of your terminal. You can't just go to the file. The file is so buried that you have to use the graphic interface to kind of point to the file, so then you can go get the file from the from the non-graphic interface. It's just crazy. But if you're eventually, you can get rid of Windows. You don't need to use it at all. So my suggestion to you, if you're just starting out again, especially on Windows, is to just use Windows Terminal as is, and then go in there and make your adjustments and and that kind of thing. We'll talk about the Groovebox theme on it as its own video today as well. So this video is supposed to be about Alacritty and Kitty. Just the reason I don't think you should use them is because they're not there by default. They're harder to install and get. I mean, they're not that hard to install, but they also have quirks in them that are enough to get you to have a bad day. And I had discussed some of that. So that video was kind of all over the place, but oh well. So next video. Yeah, I hate those. I don't like Honeymoo at all. You guys can use those if you want. So a lot of people like Alacritty, and you'd have to look deep for the problems on Alacritty on Linux. Alacritty on Linux hasn't got very many problems at all. So let's take okay, we're between videos here, so at 7:44 I'll do another video. You guys have your questions, you want to be informal, right now is the time to do it. So again, my chroma key, is my chroma not working? What's my chroma doing right now? Did I knock myself out of whack again? Today has been a bad day, man. You know what it is? This thing keeps rotating. I have no idea why, but it keeps rotating. Thank you for that. I might have to write off some of these videos and just redo them. They're short videos. They're really short videos. So yeah, let's actually do that. Let's do that. Let's redo the video here. Let's do a video. All right, I'm gonna do a video. How's my chroma? Does it look better? Yeah, you know what I think it is? I think it's the wiggling. It just sort of slowly rotates off. All right. I'm gonna do that video again because it was like all over the place. All right, ready, set. Damn it. It's going to be short videos, so. All right, so this topic seems to be pretty popular, so I'm going to redo this topic, and I'm going to do a TLDR for you right away. For the sake of the boost, the beginner boost, I don't think it's worth time messing with your terminal or messing with the new terminal. I think you should do that, just like I think you should play around with lots of different Linux OSs and stuff. But for the boost, I just want to get you boosted, and then you can go play around with all that stuff, when you have time to do that and you've learned all the major basic stuff first. So, by the way, so to the studio audiences here, we got quite a few people in here. There are a number of other terminals. The reason that I don't recommend use Alacritty is because it has enough quirks. First of all, it has to be installed, which is not that bad, but anytime you use anything besides what's on there already, you have to do installation and futzing, and it takes away time from your boost time. And I want to be, it's going to take us a long time. We got a lot of stuff to do. So I don't want to bog you down with a bunch of these little details. which includes installing another terminal and talking about why that terminal is a thing. By the way, this goes the same for window managers, and we're not even going to talk about window managers at all because it's not a part of the boost at all. We're going to be just on the terminal. All of those things are really interesting things. They're just not relevant to the beginner boost. You can have talking about this. So if you guys want to share terminals with each other and which ones you like to use better than the other, go for it. But bottom line, I don't use Alacrity anymore because it has a major bug or two in Windows that causes it to really screw up with notifications. I've never experienced a problem on Alacrity on Linux except for having it not use all of the ASCII terminal escapes. There are a few of them that are missing. I actually wrote a library and I noticed that the Alacrity stuff wasn't there yet. And I confirmed with Undead Leech, one of the committers there, that was not in there yet. So these are still beginner projects. They're nice. They're really fast for GPU accelerated things. But GNOME terminal works fine for me on Linux, and the other the built-in the Windows terminal works fine for me on Windows, and on Mac, of course. Just the Mac terminal is actually one of the best terminals I've ever encountered. Period, hands down. That's just built in. And there's significant difference of opinion about this. Colony Moo, and there's all these other terminals, iTerm2, and you're going to read a lot about people's favorite terminal. The biggest decision you need to make when you're deciding what terminal to use is how easy is it going to be to configure and get working no matter what. And that's why just use what comes with a computer. That's my take. If you want to do more customization, that's fine. I just don't like losing time on that. Okay. So wait, why didn't that pop up? Oh, that was yeah. A lot of people use different things. There's a lot of different stuff that gets used, and you can use whatever you want. So you're the boss of you. You use what you want, but I'm telling you, if you just use GNOME terminal and use the terminal, Mac terminal that comes with Mac, and use the new Windows terminal that comes with Windows, the default terminal on Windows is unacceptable. It doesn't do anything. Then if you use those things, you should be fine. Okay, so another question coming up about that. Let's do another video on that. I want to see if I can make sure I got all this in here. Okay, so VS Code, if it's what about Kitty or Alacrity, or we talked about that. VS Code. Okay, let's talk about all these other things. The boost. Okay, so I was afraid of this. When we talk about, I wonder if we can make this into a video. I'm gonna make a video about this. The terminal is different than the command line. I guess I need to make a video about that. Because I'm trying to make it as easy for people. Maybe beginners are not gonna get this. So is that under 50 characters? All right, we're gonna do another video. So this is a tough time. This day is harder than I thought it would be. But so one of the things I need to clarify is that the terminal is different than the command line shell. All right, and what do I mean by that? The terminal is an application that has these little cells, they're called. Like this is actually not a big old thing. This is actually made out of a bunch of cells. You see this right here? That's what a terminal is. A terminal is an application that uses cells that are twice as high as they are wide to put text on the screen. This has been the way terminals have been this way since the dawn of time. And there are many, strictly speaking, when we say this is a terminal, strictly speaking, it's a terminal emulator. Because in the old days, the terminals were real. I mean, they were actual green screen terminals. And so, I mean, let's go see if we can find one. It's kind of fun. I mean, if you want to get really pedantic, so here's like one of the original terminals here. You can see it's pretty, it's an actual terminal. And as we said, terminals had, where do they come from? What are they about? Well, terminals came from teletype machines, actually. Let me give you the history of that really fast. Teletype machines. So without a full-blown history in computers, which would take way too long for us to go into, we can at least talk about the teletype. So communication started out with, just little strips. You see people like, those little things for like stock exchanges, stuff like that. And then there was Morse code. You remember that? And then you get all the way to, to something that was a little bit faster than that. And people wanted to be able to push the letter, D or something and have it send a number of ones and zeros, just like, as if it were Morse code that would represent the letter D. And that was the beginning of digital, by the way. That was the beginning of how, information, including a letter, could be communicated as a number, as a base 2 number, a binary number, a digital number. And so, and we'll talk about ASCII later, but you need to understand that that's where terminals come from. So when we say install a terminal, what we're actually saying is install a terminal emulator, and every single terminal emulator that's on Linux or on any computer is still strictly tied to the old school teletype. And we're going to have some fun with that when it comes to like line returns and carriage returns. Those are things that get communicated to the terminal that are not visible, but cause it to change. And so I just really want to punch the difference between a shell and a terminal. Okay. So the shell uses a terminal. Does that make sense? The shell is a program. It's an interactive program that runs one line at a time inside of a terminal. And a terminal is what displays all of those letters and numbers and everything. And and it's really important, too, that we understand the difference here because of the difference between a terminal user interface and a command line interface. Anybody know the difference? So the terminal user interface just means that you're looking at a bunch of, if I can show you, I'm looking at 95 columns by 25 rows of each one of those cells is filled with, bits that cause it to display that way based on the code that goes for the thing that's being displayed in that spot. And the whole ASCII code sequences and the ANSI terminals and everything, that's all been well defined, and we won't get down into those weeds. It's really fun, actually. If you want to learn how to do color like I'm doing right here, you have to know how to send a special escape, it's called, to the terminal to send that to say, hey, the next thing coming is a different color. And we're going to get into that when we start coding. When we start coding in Shell and Python and C and stuff, we'll do a little bit of that terminal stuff. So that's the terminal. Now, I can do all kinds of things on the terminal. So I can run tmatrix. Let me ask you a question. So is this tmatrix application, is this a terminal user interface application, or is this a command line interface, a shell? So this is an application, the tmatrix, and my fish, you guys know about the fish, right? The fish is using the terminal UI to draw as if each one of those was a big fat pixel, however it wants to the screen. And you can make art that way. You can do whatever. It doesn't have to be now, but is that a command line, or is that a shell? There was no shell there. That's an application. So that's a terminal user interface application, a terminal application. But if I say, is it a command line application, right? So let's try one. So if I make a temp directory, make temp -d. So we're in a sample directory here, And if I am going to use, I can use this tool called GitHub. It's GitHub CLI, and I'm going to create a repo in here. Repo create. Okay, wait. So let's do this. We'll git init, and then we'll do gh repo create. Now, this looks like it's a command line UI, but you'll notice how when I accept things, it lets me change things up. Now watch. I can push my up and down arrow, and I can change what line it's on. Now, strictly speaking, this is not a command line application. It's started up from the command line shell command, but it is a terminal application because it's letting me modify in an interactive terminal way. I'm able to access things from different areas. You may have used terminal applications before. If you ever look at the old school like point of sale things for the stores, the green screens, those are terminal interfaces, and you hit tab and it moves all around through the screen and stuff. So those are terminal user interfaces, whereas a command line interface would be something more along the lines of Git. So Git has no fancy thing. If I wanted to, make it do a command, I want to, publish it or clone it or something, I have to do a Git command like this, and I can hit tab and it will show me all my different commands. That's a command line interface. And we're going to be spending most of our time on the command line interface. But again, the reason that I really wanted to get into this is because as we talk more and more about the differences between the command line and the terminal, it's important to distinguish that they're different applications. So let's end on that. Okay, so the terminal is an application that emulates what used to be done on a teletype machine. Let's see if we can go find another better one. That's what a terminal is. Actually, strictly speaking, it's a terminal emulator app. Nobody calls them that anymore. We just call them terminal apps, the terminal application, whatever you want to call it. So here's another one. See that? Look at that, man. You can zoom in on that. You can see that. So, but we don't do that anymore, right? So instead of printing to paper and then printing out and taking the paper with us, we're actually printing to the screen. So we need to put in an application instead of having a teletype machine. And that application for Windows is the best one, is the new Windows terminal, which you can install. For Mac, it's a terminal that comes with it, terminal emulator that comes with it. And of course for Linux, it comes on there also by itself. So that's the terminal application. So the follow-on question to this is always, I've got Windows Terminal, do I need WSL? And so that brings us to the next question, which is still related to this video, and I want to talk about that. So the terminal application has nothing to do with what's running underneath. The only thing that it cares about is that the programs that are running know how to talk to a terminal interface. That's it. And so when I say that, so you could run that Fish program. You could run the Fish program on Windows. You could run it on Mac. You could run it on anything, as long as the terminal application that you run it from is there. Why does that matter? Because the next question that I get, particularly from Windows people, is, well, what should does this mean I have to install Linux? Do I have to install Ubuntu? The two are often thought of in the same thought, because you kind of want to use Ubuntu Linux from the terminal, obviously, but it's a two-stage process. You need to get the terminal installed, and then you need to install Linux or WSL or whatever application you want to run, or Git Bash. Git Bash is a Linux. Git Bash is kind of interesting, and actually we'll do a video on that just now. So that's the main point. The terminal is different from the command line shell, and it's different than the operating system. It has nothing to do with those things. At the end of the day, it's just an application. So just install that application without thinking about what's going to be running in that application for now. Okay? And then we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right. So the next video I want to do is Git Bash for Windows. Let me see if I can do this. So let's do this one. Okay, so ready, go. OG mechanical keyword. Yeah. So this is a video about Git Bash on Windows. What is Git Bash? So Git Bash is a application that was created so that people could use Bash on anything. And Bash is a command line shell. And you can't have a command line shell without a terminal, which meant that the Bash team had to build in to Git Bash a terminal application to go with it. And by default, they put in a terminal application called Minty, M-I-T-T-Y, I think. But Git Bash will work with any terminal application that's installed on your computer. So the answer as to whether you should put Git Bash on your Windows computer or not, I put it on there no matter what, personally, because it works without WSL2 no matter what. And it's really important you understand that Git Bash is a Windows application. I know that sounds weird, but Git Bash is a Windows application that behaves like Linux, like Bash. It's Bash running inside of Windows. But it's running as an application. It's not running any level deeper than that. It's not integrated with it like we see with the Windows subsystem for Linux on Windows. Should you run Git Bash on a Mac? I don't think you should run Git Bash on a Mac at all. In fact, it's not really well supported. Macs don't need it. Macs come with their own terminal and software. Macs, underneath the hood, a Mac is a Unix system. It's a BSD Unix system that's been changed over the years in many ways, but it is Unix 100%. So you don't need to mess with that at all. And these days, Windows is also becoming a Linux system underneath, and that's what the Windows subsystem for Linux is, which still has to be installed as of today. But the way they're going, it's very probable that the Windows subsystem for Linux will come by default enabled on Windows by 2022, I would bet. So because the whole world is going Unix, Linux for all the reasons we've talked about in, I think, day 2. So should you get Git Bash? You might as well, but you do not need Git Bash for the beginner boost. Git Bash is just a reliable way to get Bash. So if you wanted to do some of the fancier things that you've learned how to do from Bash, like, I don't know, find files on your system, and you want to find files on your Windows system using the find command as opposed to whatever Windows comes with that does it. That would be one reason you might want to have that on there. However, most people these days are going to put in WSL2 because of it's faster. It has quirks for sure, but it is so low level. It's definitely the direction Windows is going in. And it also really, really speeds up Docker desktop when you put it in. So the answer is yes, eventually. But I would say bypass it for the sake of the beginner boost. You don't need that. So that's a long-winded answer to that one. What are you guys asking down there? You've got questions? Let me take a 5-minute break here. Where's Fumo? Yeah. How does this relate to the graphics pipeline? The graphics pipeline is completely different. It's completely different. Yeah. So I mean, if you really want to get into the weeds on this, we won't. But so in this particular case, we're using something called the X window system. And so the computer cuts out a pane, a window, an X window, and gives the application control over what it does with each pixel inside of that. And the terminal application is responsible for drawing those pixels properly inside of a cell. And so that's in the main library for doing that is still ncurses is called. And it is a really, really low level subsystem that, turns ASCII characters into, something that's displayed as pixels on your computer. So that's what's actually going on. How's it going, silly boy? Yeah, people are using WSL2 in Windows all the time. Yep. It does have some quirks. So a terminal executes the shell's command. A terminal provides the interface to the user to type in commands. That's right. Much exactly like the teletype, the old teletype we were looking at. So the terminal replaces the teletype. Exactly. That's all it is. It's just a replacement for the teletype, literally. In fact, when you're going to see this, but inside of /dev, you're going to see a whole bunch of TTYs. See all these dev TTYs? The reason they're called TTY is teletype. So there still is a reference to the teletype machine in Unix today. Every time you get a TTY is a device. It's as if it's a stream. It's a stream of data to that teletype, and so all the data is being streamed around in a Unix system. A digital hipster, yeah. How's it going? All right, so what else we got here? Let's see if we can get back on track on some other stuff. Okay, so I'm just dumping in here. All right, so we got an hour left to talk about this. Is there any Unix I mean, we should probably talk about Groovebox. And I have I'm going to do a video about Groovebox right now. All right. Okay, I'm going to do a video about Groovebox because we're talking about terminals right now and the Beginner Boost. Groovebox is the terminal that I'm using right now, and terminals have themes, and you can change the colors of them and stuff like that, no matter where you want to do this. And the colors for Groovebox I've set here. I actually had, there's probably an easier way, but in GNOME Terminal, I had to set the current terminals by going and getting the values. So let me show you where to get those values. You can set them all here. And if you just do a basic search for Groovebox on the internets, you'll find the GitHub site with it. And you can pull that up and look at that. And this will give you the Groovebox colors. They get random different. There's a dark mode and there's a light mode. It's important to tell you that Groovebox was inspired by my previously favorite theme, Solarized. I used this theme for years and years and years. And rumor has it this was invented by a firefighter, actually. So Solarized was the first of the dual, yin yang kind of things that capitalized on contrast and colors that could work in both ways. And to do that, they had to take some real serious liberties with how colors work in the terminal. But it turned out to be popular. It created something of a war with people that are diehard true, people. See all these colors here, all of these grays here. These grays technically are supposed to be bright versions of these other colors, and so it provided a much more subtle terminal difference. But Solarized, a lot of other Solarized did have problems. It's particularly its black had problems. It would turn out to not be visible in some places, and so it's had people have tried to do better with it and improve upon it. And probably the most popular replacement for it is now is Groovebox. And Groovebox, as you can see, here's the color palette. It actually defines a lot of different parts of the palette. It does have the multiple versions of gray, and it kind of uses orange. It's weird, but this is the place where it's really distinctly different because it does still use the old school traditional, colors, as opposed to giving them all up. But if you want to give them up, these are the ones you could use it for if you wanted to. So, and here's the light mode version. And the only way, so how do you get it? Well, what you do is you go into your whatever your thing is. If you can't find a theme that already has it, you can go in there and you can set the number for the color to these colors here, and this actually tells you, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So depending on your terminal, so my terminal I have here, I got my preferences. If I go to my colors here, here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. So this is the 16 original colors. And I don't forget, by the way, if you do this, don't forget to set these colors up here. The one for the default color for this is your white for most of your text, and this is your real black background. That's the background of your terminal. And you'll notice that this color for me is 282828. It's slightly different than this color here because I didn't want stuff disappearing. And so that way there's always a contrast. And so I picked this. I can't remember which one this is, but that's one of these colors picked from over here. And I just set that up myself. It doesn't take much time to just put the colors, the values in there. And that's how you do that. It's not too hard. And that's the Groovebox theme. Certainly modern terminal have presets for popular schemes. They do. Solarized is built in by default into all terminals these days. Groovebox is not. Groovebox is not built in by default on anything, including MS Windows. So I had to go in and set my own. Why is it so popular? The reason it's so popular is because of the muted. For you to really truly appreciate something like this, you have to understand that people who have been staring at terminals all their life, what did they appreciate? What most people, I mean, seriously, if you've been staring at a terminal for 13 hours a day, you appreciate the subtle contrast between the colors without them being overly strong. And so it's a very subjective thing, obviously, but the appeal is that it doesn't force your eyes to overstrain. And you sort of get natural contrast between things without them being, too stark. And some people really like the old school traditional, really, really black screen and stuff like that. But I have come to, one of the things I really like about Groovebox is I think it really nailed the amount of dark. So, because like if this were black, I mean, I could actually change this to be black right now. And some people might like it better. But I think it's just too strong. So this is 282828. But if I go here, which I actually have to do if I want to do just, so now, everything kind of fades into the background and there's a very strong, but to me, it just kind of, I don't know. I'm really affected by colors. So like working in a really, really black, screen all the time starts to wear on my soul. Over time, there's just something about the more subtle, colors. There's other that are even more friendly. There's ones like chalk is another popular one, and I mean everybody's got a favorite, right? But this is my favorite because it's aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't get too cheesy with its sort of pastel kind of like appeal. And it just fits for me. So that's honestly, that's the main reason. There has been, hey, going binary. Dark gray is much easier on the eyes. Yeah, I think that's what it is. There is a gist of it. Yep. Thank you for that. If you have an old display, full black would minimize the amount of light emitted by your display. Yes, probably would too. There are a lot of reasons to pick a theme, and I actually had the really traditional X-Term colors on here for a long time. If you go back and see my other colors, and even more recently, I used to use transparency quite a bit. In case anybody wants to do that, by the way, you trade eyesight problems with the feeling of being outside and connected, and it's kind of a trade-off, right? Because your eyes hurt more, but you don't feel as boxed in. because I mean, you guys have seen me do this before, right? So in order to do this, you have to go 100% black background, and then you can set your terminal. You can change your transparency and turn on transparent background, and you can go all the way up, and you can see everything in the background, right? And it really just depends on what's in your background. And I'll give away another secret here. So, I just go get a fancy YouTube video and play it in the background. So that's when I do transparency. Sometimes when I want to feel like I'm outside, I'll go get, this is a crazy one, but no, that's not, I cannot do that. This is one of my popular ones. So I'll full screen it. This is not related to Groovebox, but this is what Groovebox looks like when it's put into a transparency. Let me turn this off. But if I go back to here, now you can see I've got that on top, right? And you can do that. Sometimes that's nice. It's like looking through a window. You know what I mean? And if you like the fireplace or the beach, that's fine. But you really pay for it. And as soon as you stop doing it that way, you'll really notice the difference. I'm just going to tell you right now, because I mean, let's do Neofish again. So, I mean, it depends on how dark you go with it, right? If you, everybody's seen my old videos. I'm always tweaking this, right? Yes, it's kind of a fun, but look, you go too light, you can't read anything. I mean, that would no, just no. So at what point do you go like this? And I just want to have it there. I will say this about Groovebox. Groovebox has done a really outstanding job. Once I set the background to 100% black, meshing with every background that I've thrown at it, pretty much. So I think it's fine for transparency as well in the background. And I think that's probably one of the main reasons that I still gravitate toward Groovebox. Sometimes it's really fun. It just depends on my mood. The main reason that I don't do displays like this in the background for the beginner boost is because I want a consistent background. I want to be able to cut and paste videos in different spaces and not have them look like they're out of place because they're in different, one has a beach and another one doesn't. So that's really the main reason. It's also where I wear a black t-shirt every time. So in case you're wondering. So that's why we have good old Groovebox here, keeping us happy. And so yeah. Yep. Any other questions there? So let's do back to the boost here. I think between Groovebox, what else? Difficulty on Windows. I don't know if. Let's do the VS Code thing. Let's do the VS Code thing. I can actually install it on here and I can show you. Very nice. I had to finally give in on my uptime. Yeah, beginner boost, consistent background was really important. I could, because I'm going to be moving videos around like crazy. Yeah, and these are pretty standard colors. They're hopefully they're easy to read. I'm assuming some teachers might put these videos up on the screen, and hopefully the kids in the back can read the terminal, the size of the colors and the fonts and everything. And so visibility is the maximal reason for me doing it this way. Yeah, and it's pretty. I mean, I know I could probably go bigger with the font, but VS Code on Windows. So let's talk about that for a second. Okay, let's talk about VS Code. Okay, so let's talk about VS Code. All right, so another video. So what about VS Code? So today, was it day 4 of the Beginner Boost? We are doing everything about the terminal, getting yourself a terminal. And inevitably somebody will say, well, why not just use VS Code? The whole world uses VS Code. And what does VS Code even look like, right? You guys, if you used it? So this is VS Code. I have VS Codium and VS Code. So we'll use the actual code, VS Code. Just so you guys can see what it is. This is VS Code, and nothing wrong with VS Code. I really liked it. I used it for a full year. Made a video about that before I decided to go back to VI for lots of reasons that I'll talk about later. But And the important reason to bring up VS Code today is because VS Code comes with a terminal built in. It comes with a terminal emulator built in. And more importantly, particularly if you're working with young people, you can change the theme. Okay, so you can go over here and you can click color theme. So when you're working with 9 to 12-year-olds, which I worked with for a long time, in addition to older people, you see this? It has Solarized already in it. So let's say I want to use Solarized Dark. I can put Solarized Dark, and now I've got Solarized, right? I got all my stuff there. In fact, I can full screen this. And how do you full screen the window? I don't remember. I don't even think you can maximize the panel. Okay, there we go. Is that enough for NeoFetch? Probably not, but let's check. Can I shut this? Just go away. All right. So let's try NeoVim or NeoFetch. So there's NeoFetch. It works fine. There's all your colors. So what about VS Code? Honestly, I don't care if you use VS Code. If you want, you are the boss of you. If you want to use VS Code, fine. If you want to use the terminal in VS Code, which actually is written in JavaScript, it's pretty amazing. That's totally okay. It's still going to mean you're still going to have to install, something to run in the terminal. And in the case of Windows, it's going to be WSL2 or Git Bash. Git Bash used to be the default, by the way, and then they changed it to WSL2. But both of those have to be installed on Windows. If you're on a Mac, you get a terminal right away. So you get a nice, pretty colorful terminal on a Mac without going in and messing with the the terminal theme settings the way you want to. And I mean, if you're on Linux, it's the same thing, right? You get a terminal automatically. The reason people use VS Code is not because of its terminal. They use VS Code because of this. They use it because of all the ways to organize all the stuff that's over here. And sometimes, there's my node picture. Sometimes I won't lie, I like it better. Sometimes I like VS Code, particularly when I'm working with web development or anything like that. It's probably one of the reasons that VS Code is so popular, particularly with web developers. Is because of that. Now, that we are not going to be doing web development during the boost. We'll do some minimal web development. I'm going to call it web documents, so you can get an understanding of that, enough to write notes and stuff, but not enough to become a web developer, enough for you to maybe move into the field if you want to. But again, this boost, the purpose of this boost is to show you what you might not know, give you a sense of the web stuff if you want to go into it, but to focus on, the core skills, which are really learning how to use your computer, the stuff on your computer, primarily through the terminal, and then build up from there, including, eventually web pages and stuff like that. So this is why VS Code is not the first thing that we install. But since we are talking about terminals, this is one of those opportunities where you can install it. If you are younger, as I said before, or if you're working with young people, this is hands down the easiest way to get them to be really engaged, because they can go immediately. You want to see a really crazy theme? I used this theme for like probably 5 months. I used red. In fact, it kind of gets me all happy inside looking at this theme. I used this red theme to do all my development in like the beginning of 2019. Yeah, and I did some story games in JavaScript and a bunch of interactive stuff like that. It looks overwhelming, but it's kind of fun to code in. I was like, it just kept kind of, I don't know why, it reminds me of Diablo. Yes. So the other thing too about this is, oh my God, there are so many color themes for VS Code. There's literally probably thousands, if not millions at this point, of color themes. I'm sure finding a Groovebox theme is just a matter of searching really quickly. Let's go see if we can find one. Extensions. And this is why VS Code is so popular, is because of all its extensions, which is also why it's not something I use, because it gets bloated really fast. In fact, the base image is really, really bloated these days. So you can go get it. You go see if we can find Groovebox. I just talked about that in another video. Groovebox material thing. Let's go try this one, see what it's like. And this is why people like VS Code. It's so easy. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I clicked on 2. I typed 8 characters, and now I got Groovebox. All right. So, if you like this better than the built-in terminal, that's fine. You can go get this and do it this way if you want to do that. Okay. I mean, I'm nobody's going to judge you. It's really up to you. And pretty much all the other streamers and YouTubers use this, but I don't particularly feel inclined to have to use it. I mean, I could. It looks pretty fast even right now. Not even going very slow. I'd be curious to see how it does the Docker stuff. I'm gonna see how it does that. One of the biggest complaints I have about this is let's see, hard. There we go. Ooh, I'll get that. Okay, probably my major complaint about Groovebox in general is I'm not Groovebox, VS Code is it never gets out of the way. It's always got this crap. You can try your hardest to get it out of there, but it's always there, and it's a little overbearing. It's much easier to do Git management here with creating branches and stuff. If you want to do that, you can definitely do that. We are not going to be doing that. We're going to be learning from the terminal, but I go back and forth. Sometimes I really like having a little bit of mouse ability, and this stuff, particularly when you're cutting and pasting stuff. DAP doesn't always do it. Delete the current, paragraph and yank it. Sometimes it's nice to have good old cut and paste and be able to do your development this way. And so, yeah, I'll let you guys make the decision. That's really all I have to say about VS Code. I'm not pushing it. I'm also not pushing you away from it. I just, it's really up to you. I still think you should get Windows Terminal installed if you're a Windows user. Mostly because that's going to allow you to pop off the right same. You can do the same thing here as well. So there's really no need even for that. To get a terminal, by the way, is just control backtick. A couple things since VS Code I'll tell you about that people don't know about. So did you see that? So control backtick, which you can do with one hand. Yeah, you can do that with one hand. It'll give you a terminal. Go back to the terminal, off the terminal. This actually is one of the main reasons that I use this instead of something like brackets or some of those other editors out there. I've done videos about that before. But one of the things I really like about this is actually, do I have code in here? Okay. So this is a tip that not many people know about VS Code. So one of the most powerful things about the command line is being able to run around and navigate from the command line very quickly instead of having to use your stupid mousing around, right? So let's say you want to go in a temp, let's say you want to make a new directory, okay? So we're going to cd into a new directory, make temp -d, and now we're in this like really weird esoteric directory. Now let's change the entire workspace context of VS Code from the command line. To do that, you just do code, and you can do -r, I think, but or just dot, and that will start VS Code from that spot. I believe -r, I don't remember. I think one of them is like, yeah, go ahead and replace it if that's the one. Nope, that's it. Code dot. So, yeah, there we go. Actually, it is -r. So -r replaces the current context, I'm pretty sure. So code -r. There, that's the one. So that just throws away your previous one and resets it to this one. If you want to do without that, it'll make up new VS Code. But as you can see, there's nothing in here, right? So I can make a new .md file and do my stuff here and turn my preview on Markdown. It's a really great way to learn Markdown too. It's like something, here is the way to do it. There's just so many advantages to doing it with VS Code, and this is why VS Code is still the leading editor. You can actually invite people to join your session and do it collaboratively and a bunch of stuff. And so for most people in the graphic world and the developer world, they're going to remain primarily VS Code users, and that's fine. I still prefer my command line, but again, I'm just using it now, and I'm like, ooh, that's kind of nice. I go back and forth. I really do. I go back and forth between the two. I'm not just a terminal guy all the time. Sometimes one little click is really nice. Source control, like you can initialize a repository. Some of these, one of the things that's bad about doing all of these things is graphically is that you forget how to do it from the command line. So you kind of lose knowledge, and that's one of my main complaints about it. So I just want to show you that tip before we left. So again, the tip is just code space -r space dot to reset to the current directory from the command line and open VS Code right there. And the -r reestablishes your current workspace and replaces it with the new one. If you don't do that, if you're, yeah, and by the way, if you can be out wandering around and not even have VS Code open, right? So let's try that. So you can be out and about. So let's say I'm back in, I don't know, /temp. All right. So let's say I want to open VS Code from here, code space dot, and that will open VS Code from that location with all of these things that I've downloaded here. I mean, some of them are kind of weird and stuff, but you get the point, right? So I got your directories here, and there's my new, see, and you can actually reset it while you're still doing this. You can pull up my terminal. Let's go back home. Let's say, let's go to my dot files. How about that? Go to, oops, review x rob dot. All right. So this stupid annoying thing. So let's do that. Let's like reset it. Let's reset this whole session from here -r dot. And now it's going to change the whole session to be my, where I'm at. Another quick tip, make sure you go into file and turn autosave on. I'm just going to tell you right now, those are the two most common mistakes people make. If you turn autosave on, it'll save you hassle, because if the thing crashes or something, it won't be lost. And that'll cover that for you. All right. I mean, that's really all I have to say about VS Code. If you want to do that, go for it. I don't know how that's going to complicate your world with Docker, but I imagine it will be fine. Another reason not to do it is yet another Electron instance, which is, another memory hog. So that's really up to you. That's all. What did you guys have anything interesting to say? Yeah, bloated about VS Code. Yeah. It's kind of zippy with zero extensions. Yeah, it is. See, this is why I had to give it up, because I had like some really base extensions, and it just got slow. The slowest thing about VS Code is once you open it, you don't ever want to close it, because if you close it, you have to wait for it to boot up again. So you kind of have to just write off that memory for the whole day and just leave it running, and then change the context like I showed you if you're going to use that method. And that means, you saw how long it took to just load up a new context, right? From the command line terminal, that stuff is instant. I go in and out of VI all the time, and it freaks people out. Like, isn't it more efficient to stay in your editor? And I'm like, it is, but not necessarily. VI opens in nanoseconds, so I can reopen it and remembers where I was when I left off. So that method of editing and stuff kind of catches people off guard. And then they're like, well, why are you not using some sort of tree thing inside of Vim? Well, you don't need it if you're using VI, particularly VI, because it's even smaller than Vim, starts to be even faster. So, but if you're using VS Code, you got to kind of keep it running, and that's one of the reasons I didn't want it around. Yeah, it does have Zen mode that hides stuff, but it's not it probably has a lot of changes. Yeah, and there's a mouse, the mouse issue. Is it Control K, then Z? Yeah. To a working directory. Yeah. VS Code has a fundamental association between a workspace and a directory, and you can put configurations for VS Code in that directory in a .vs code file. So you can like say, I only want this one to do this and that, this and such, and it's it's nice. The hardest part with VS Code is that I had was getting it to save all of my settings for VS Code in a way that I could save in a GitHub repo and pull them up again. And I know they did some progress on that, but when I was using it a couple of years ago, it was really, really hard to do that. You couldn't just, say, I want all of these settings. So say I wanted to keep my Groovebox every time, right? And the directories that resulted from that were really bloated, and they were like making my dot files, really unhappy. And that was another reason I left it, is it didn't have an easy way to cache its configuration so that I could start it up from someplace else. And people were like, well, why would you want to do that? You're just going to be working the same computer all the time. Like, no, sometimes I work from different computers. So as you can see, that's why I'm building a dot files container. So I can just pop up workspace anytime I want, and I know exactly what I'm dealing with, and I don't have to go reconfigure the whole thing every time, let alone install, this. So anyway, that's VS Code. It's probably really important that I talk about VS Code during the boost because we are not going to use VS Code, and people think I'm absolutely out of my mind for not using it. But yeah, VI Space Emacs and VIMO. Yeah, this is the thing. Okay, so why should I use an emulator plugin when I can use the actual thing? Yeah, I've even caught myself using VI from the terminal in a VS Code session all the time. I'm doing VI and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I'm in VS Code. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Maybe you want to do both. Maybe you want to have it open. As long as you have autosave on, if you have autosave on, it'll actually pick up the changes. If you change them in VI, it'll pick up those changes. It'll put them in the file so then you can keep the graphic flowing for your cut and paste if you want to do that. It's really up to you. Editing code is your business. It's your business. And I might have opinions about how it works really fast for me, and I can share those things. But at the end of the day, your code editor is a very personal choice, unless you're being required to make lightweight containers. And you know, in that case, you would not ever bundle VS Code with a base container or something like that, just so people can edit. And that doesn't make sense, but you get my point. It's like, you know, there's a reason that VI is, and not Vim, is built into BusyBox container because it needs to stay light. So when you're making these, you need to really draw a distinction. And I'm going to end with this. We had somebody kind of get burned. I think maybe having fun with me. It wasn't actually a situation where they got burned, but you need to make a strong distinction between what's your own personal workflow and workspace, and what are you standardizing for everybody in your work environment. Because, you know, you can't force everybody to use VS Code unless you're the CEO. And they have. There's people who have said, thou shalt use VS Code in our company or you can't work here. And I'm like, bye-bye, I don't want to be here. I didn't say that, but there's no way I would ever work for a company that mandated an editor. I think that's just ridiculously stupid. All right. What the dog is trying to get into my room. She's like grabbing at my thing. So I better leave this here. This topic about VS Code. Seriously, the dog's trying to break into my. Can you hear her? She's trying to break into my door. Any other questions? I gotta go let her in. All right, end that video there. What? Why are you so scared? Are you scared of the thunder? Okay, you can come hide. She wanted to hide. She was like scared. Daddy, let me come in. You have created 32. Running in the background and return to it a couple key presses. Yeah, I know. I know people love doing that, but I don't. Look. Since we're kind of off the clock right now, so let me just 5 minutes there. The idea of going back and forth between your IDE and using it and buying more RAM. I've lived through Eclipse. I've lived through I've lived through Visual Studio, which is even worse. It's so bad. These are things that literally thought it was okay to take every ounce of RAM and memory and resources from the whole computer because it was based on this assumption like we're the only thing running here. And, you know, I actually am more of a fan of some of the lightweight editors these days. You know, any of the stuff from IntelliJ or what's it called? It's not IntelliJ. You know, I think I probably would be interested to try GoLand and some of that kind of stuff, but I am not a fat editor fan. I just have never liked it. I feel like it's, but if I was, my opinions might have changed if I was editing thousands of lines of code. You know, my work history has been, I've maintained thousands of lines of code and stuff, and I've usually been okay with that. And to tell you the truth, the fact that I do use a different sort of editing style has changed many of my preferences with regard to how long files are and how organized they are and things like that. I actually think I'm a better programmer because I don't use a fat IDE that will let you put 8,000 lines in a file and navigate it without a problem. I think that is a serious fail, and other people disagree. So, you know, that's just not how I see the world. And what else we got? Z Shell, and change it in the back to bash. No, you can leave it Z shell. We're not gonna use it. We're gonna use Docker hobnoms. So yeah, we're gonna put Docker on there. It's not gonna matter what your shell is to start it up. Any shell whatsoever. In fact, to tell you the truth, you really don't even need to install WSL2. If you wanted to on Windows, you could just start it straight from the command line. You could just, all you need is a way to be able to start Docker. That's it. And it happens to be easier to start Docker from WSL2, and it speeds it up because it is Linux. And so I would suggest that. You won't find ZSL on a production server usually. Nope. You can't. Okay, so if we're talking about shells, we're kind of going forward into tomorrow's stuff, but for today, the shell that we're going to be learning is going to be Bash, but whatever shell you have on your computer right now doesn't matter, and your customizations to Mac and getting around Z shell and installing the GNU utilities and all those kinds of things, they're definitely a part of Boost, but we're going to save them till the very end. So the very end of the Boost is going to be, I want to trick out my workstation. I want to install Linux. I want to make Mac. I want to turn Mac into Linux as much as I can. At least I want to make the commands the same. Those kind of questions are going to come at the end. For the sake of today, day 4, the only goal is to get a terminal working that you like to look at and that will be able to start Docker. And everything else will be consistent across the board, across all operating systems because of Docker. So that's coming up here in a couple days. So it's easier to emulate Vim in VS Code than to emulate VS Code in Vim. Yeah, probably. The beast, she's terrified. There's no way she's coming up here. She's so afraid. She was like pushing my door down to get in here. She thinks she's safer underneath my table for some reason. I don't know why. She thinks somehow I can protect her from the thunder. She's like shaking. Oh my God. Oh honey, it's okay. It's okay. She's shaking like crazy. She's so scared. She gets so afraid of the rain. July 4th. Oh my God. It's like people think July 4th is a fun holiday. Yeah, unless you have a dog. It's okay, Sam. Sam, it's okay. Yeah. Poor girl. I'm sad for her now. Android Studio, it's a shame. Does it? I don't know. It's just getting worse. Is it really? Visual Studio Professional? I heard they did an audit. I read a Microsoft blog actually. They did an audit. There was 50,000 unused lines of code in Visual Studio. It's just this like behemoth application with so much code in it. Nobody even knows what it does. Massive technical debt. I don't do any. The problem with so Dracnet. Let me talk about that for a second. And actually, I'm going to make a video about this. This is an important video. So let me put it in the Boost main. Why not just use Vim plugins with VS Code? I get this question all the time, and I want to answer it. So, I'm going to give this one a nice official answer that I can make a video out of. So here we go. Every time we talk about emulators, particularly VS Code, I am always asked, let me shut the door real quick. All right, I'll start over. Every time I get asked a question about why I don't use VS Code every day and why I use Vim or VI, inevitably somebody says, well, why can't you just use the Vim plugins? And I did use the Vim plugins for a long time. And the main reason is because you can't integrate the shell with plugins. And that's a very short statement that has a lot. It's the tip of the iceberg, I know. But in order for you to truly understand how to use VI properly, you will use the least number of filters and plugins possible. And that includes Vim. This is why NeoVim is a disastrous fail, because it capitalizes on the ability to extend Vim in ways that are ungodly and unheard of and just frankly stupid. Why do you want to write, Node and JS plugins and Python and all this stuff in Vim? To do that is fundamentally against Unix philosophy, and that argument applies to VS Code. So if I was going to using Vim is much more. People ask me all the time too, why don't I use the graphic interface or the web and just use Vimium, which I do. And the reason is because, yes, Vim navigation is just one tiny piece of the reason that you use VI. It's not even the main piece. The main reason that you use VI is because you want to write code that you can only write code that writes code. You want to write code that writes code, right? Done, right? So this is bash code in a script. Why on earth would I do that? Because I want to send it to the shell and replace it with its output. I want to send this to the shell. I want to do some complicated, I did this the other day and messed it up. So I want to do 3 times 45 divided by 1.374. I want to be able to do this and send that to the shell and get the output. Those type of tasks that I just did are not supported by any amount of extension to VS Code or to Vim or to NeoVim or anything else. They require a fundamental understanding of how VI was intended to be used in the first place, which is shell integration. And if you're not doing those things, say I want to put a calendar in the middle of my thing here. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to insert right here. I'm going to go bang, bang. I'm going to replace this type cal. I'm going to replace the calendar. I got it. Now it's got some quirks on it, right? Any number of things. I mean, I could write any code whatsoever in any language and have it generate stuff in here. Let's say I want to write some Markdown. Hello there. I mean, I know you have previewers and stuff, right? But let's say I want actual stuff. I don't know. Let's say I want to do a table. How about that? Those are hard, right? Let's do a table. So like foo, bar, and I would say, 3, I don't know, 3, 5, right? So there's my table. So I'm going to have a table here. This is a table in Markdown. Let's convert this into a whole thing. Let's convert this whole document into Markdown in one command line. All right, let's do the whole thing. Sorry. Let's show you the whole thing. Now I have HTML table rendered in place without even leaving the editor. None of that is doable in VS Code. It's not doable in a Vim plugin. And it's the reason that you should spend most of your focus, if you're going to be a terminal master, writing tiny shell scripts that are filters. Let's say you want to use one to comment code. I'm going to send all of this code to CMT. That's going to make my comment just like that. I didn't have to do visual mode. If I want to do a different kind of comment, I can do CMT //. Why? Because I wrote that filter in shell. All you have to do is look at it like this. Let's go look at this thing. Let's go. Here's the code. That's the entire code for it. The reason you need to learn Vim properly, and the first language you need to learn to code in after Vim is POSIX shell, is because if you don't know how to do the two together, you don't know VI, you don't know Vim, and you don't know the Linux command line, period. You don't know the Unix philosophy, and this is why Emacs is an abomination, because it decided to be all things to all people. And it was totally wrong. It's why NeoVim is an abomination, and it's why all of the different plugin suggestions are just misguided, because they are throwing away the most valuable reason to use VI in the first place. There. That's all I have to say about that. Do anybody have a comment about that we want to put on tape? So, yeah, I got the semicolon that time. That's why. No, I can't. No, I can't. It comes pretty damn close. Yeah, I was looking at that with who was it? Moshi and I were looking at that. Yeah, we were looking at that. It doesn't. It comes. Emacs's Doom mode comes as close as closest of anything I've ever met to doing it right, but it doesn't do it completely right. It has some other quirks with shell. Like the shell command line stuff, OniVim too. I don't know what that is. What is that? What is this? What is Oni Vim 2? Oh, no. I saw this one already. It's with the settings and the features of moderate errors. Yeah, I did. I remember looking at this. Yeah, I know. That's the one that it actually just changes everything. Yeah, I remember that. I remember it was non-free, and it totally changes the whole. It doesn't have navigation or anything. It's like you have to change everything. We'll be going into Vim and POSIX Shell. We're going to do all of POSIX Shell. Yep. We're going to do all of POSIX Shell here because I know of no one else covering POSIX Shell. And if they are, they're definitely not covering it right because they're teaching local, which is not POSIX and things like that. I just ran into that today. So that's what's going to go. We only have a few more minutes here. We've got 12 minutes for tonight to go before we go. Is there any other topics related to a terminal? So if you're wondering what to do today, your goal by tomorrow is to have a terminal of your choice. Whatever kind of terminal you want. I told you my reasons for the terminals that I picked, and you can make your own decisions because you're your own boss. The link between VI and Linux command line gives the perspective of why VM. Thanks for several video aid on that. Yeah, ARV, RDBX. The reason that I have to show that about VI all the time is because no one knows it. No one. People have been using VI for 30 years, and they still don't use it right. Because no one ever teaches you to use VI. They send you through the Vim tutor or whatever, and then you just kind of struggle through it and learn your minor things, but you don't ever learn the power of VI. There is one, I think I remember there was like one blog out there that was they're kind of playing on VI Wizards 3, and it was like talking about all the discoveries of when you hit level 20, and almost all of the discoveries at level 20 and above they're not really anything. They're just teaching you how to use shell. And by the way, if you want to use Node as your command line, I don't care. You can even write integrated Node shell scripts. You can write filters using Node that alter the content of the code of the stuff. You can write, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your command line does at that point. And here's the other thing. The moot point. Exactly. This is the fundamental purpose of the Unix philosophy. The whole idea of filtering stud in and stud out and all of that stuff that we talked about 2 days ago, yesterday. The entire point of the Unix philosophy is to keep things to do one thing well and to use filters, input and output and all that stuff. And the things that thumb their nose at that fail every time. Every time. I mean, Emacs might be able to do a pretty damn close job to emulate it with Doom mode, but think about all the work it had to do just to do what VI already does in like 1/200th of the memory space. It drives me crazy because the people that make the decisions about what the editor they pick and how they extend their editor in particular. I mean, you look, the best Vim RCs are the smallest Vim RCs because they don't have a lot of customization. Syntax, yes, and mine's like 500 lines, and there are some things that are nice. The syntax, Vim and NeoVim, frankly, are great for things like syntax and kind of stepping it up a notch, kind of getting you closer to a VS Code situation going on. But at the end of the day, the less Vim script, the better. The fewer plugins, the better. It should be more a matter of how much of this can I write a script for, or can I use as a script that already exists, and that includes linting and stuff. Do you know what I mean? You can make a linter. You can put a linter in there, and all it has to do is just on save, just run your whole script through a linter, and you're done. That linter is a command. It's a command that takes standard input and puts standard output. So if if you do the Unix philosophy right, you don't have to rethink all of these things. And of course, that's the main reason for using VI, in my opinion. Yeah. After 2020, look, I want to say I personally am really intrigued by the Emacs workflow. Because I know a lot of people that are far smarter than me. All of the people who use Emacs that I look up to are people who never leave their editor. They're in their editor all day. They're Torvalds and people like that. They're usually really, really, hardcore software engineers and programmers. And I think the reason that Emacs doesn't appeal to me, well, there's two reasons I haven't tried it. I did briefly try it, and I was like, nope, not doing it. One is I have the muscle memory for VI. Two, VI is on everything, and I am a cloud native person, system administrator. So it's more important for me to be productive on any number of containers, including BusyBox, which has VI built in, not Emacs, right? It would never, if they were to put Emacs on there, it would probably increase the size. Let's try it. You want to try it? If I wonder how much bigger the container would be if you were to put Emacs on a BusyBox container. Of course, that's not. You should be mind mounting anyway, right? If you're going to be changing stuff every day for like 3 weeks before it stops feeling like garbage in my experience. Yeah, I if I throw any shade at Emacs, it's because I'm just having fun. I know a lot of people who use it. I really respect. And I personally, I don't think there's an entire like sort of subset of tech jobs that I think do not benefit from Emacs. In fact, I think they could be harmed by it. So anything in pen testing, SRE work, pen testing work, cloud native stuff, containers, anything that's minimalistic, you have to be on really quickly. Now, the one thing about containers, I will say that this is kind of nice because we're kind of winding up here. The one thing that containers has really done is it's opened up the world to people who want to do Emacs, because you're just bind mounting your container. You don't care. I'm sorry, this is not beginner material yet. I'm just kind of riffing on this. If you want to write your Docker files and and if you're properly using ephemeral containers and you're like bind mounting, your volumes so you can work on your code within them, and the containers are not doing that, we live in the containerization and Kubernetes and everything has created a world where you can edit and using whatever you want. And in fact, for the first time, I think that we're going to start to see people with, Arch Linux on their home systems, even in the container world, because they can modify their container interfaces without, having any of that turn out to be too much bloat in any sense, So in the old days, I would have been. I think the containerization is going to improve things for a lot of people. Because it provides a lot more choice at the end of the day. I think that's going to be the good thing, and stuff. So yeah, I think I'm probably done for tonight. So you guys have some questions, or I can't read them. I need to probably catch up here. Let's see. What's the latest verdict on WSL2? So tomorrow we're going to spend the whole day talking about that stuff. All right, one last video on that. Let's do a video on that. Since it does kind of go here, right? So let's do it. All right, so let's do a quick one on this. So what about WSL2 on Windows? At this point in the boost, we're talking about terminals, and I did a video talking about the difference between the terminal and the stuff running in the terminal, which includes this shell, and that's what WSL2 is. It's not just a shell, but it's an entire Linux subsystem, the Windows subsystem for Linux. And I've done videos on complaining about WSL2. It has a really fatal, horrible bug that keeps it from working with VPNs because of a huge bug in how it handles the firewalls. And so I was really mad because it does not work at work. So, however, WSL2 on Windows, I've come to find out after that, accelerates Docker. So this is really a question more not for the terminal day, but for the day where we talk about, what are you going to run in your terminal and getting containers running and all of that. And so in the case of Windows, it's at this point, like it or not, it's pretty much mandatory that you have to install WSL2. And the writing is on the wall in every way. Even Docker, when Docker installs, it pushes WSL2 really heavily because they know that they can make everything much faster with it. In fact, they give you a big warning if you don't. They say, hey, if you don't put WSL2, everything can be a lot slower. And it's true. And I tested on this Windows machine right here for work. And so this is my current position on WSL2 as of May 10th, 8:57 p.m. It might change tomorrow. My current position is that if you're going to do anything with Docker on Windows and you have a new enough computer to do so, to install WSL2 first, do all of that, and then Windows 10, they're not even giving you the option now. And then install Docker in that with WSL2 acceleration. So that's my current position for that. I did make a video where I recommended Git Bash being fine for some people, but I think that's getting really a really small amount. And after using Git Bash for 2 weeks and starting Docker from Git Bash, that is a pain in the butt. It's a pain in the butt because of bind mounting and pathing and volumes and all that stuff. But it's also so stinking slow. I mean, it's so slow. It takes seriously 5 or 6 seconds for it to even just come up and give you a prompt from the terminal. And WSL just pops right up instantly because it's already in RAM memory and everything. And then all the containers that are running off WSL do that. So my current solution at work is to install WSL2, to install Docker Desktop, and to create what I call a sort of a workspace container. And my workspace container, you can watch me building on that tonight if you want, but my workspace container is a container that just runs, and I can tweak for the work I'm doing, and I just leave it running, and I reload that container. And that gets past all the bugs in WSL2 with regard to the firewall, because it uses the networking from the host that contains it. We haven't talked about containers at all, and so that's going to sound like a lot of stuff over your head. The answer is put WSL2 on it. Follow the steps to do it. It's a pain in the butt still. They're getting closer. They're very close to one command line that's going to do it. And I have a feeling that even that's going to go away, and it's just going to be installed by default. It might not be turned on by default, but it's going to become something in your settings that you're just going to click a toggle on your Windows 10 and you'll just have it on when you boot. That's really coming. So you might as well get used to doing it that way. And then installing other stuff on top of that. I personally didn't spend any time configuring my WSL2 because I'm spending all that time configuring my workspace container so that it does and looks pretty and does everything that I want in it, because I can reload the workspace container anywhere, anytime on any computer. And I don't feel like customizing a WSL2 that's just going to go away when that computer goes away, even though I've gotten around a lot of that by having a GitHub repo, right, for most of it. So that's my take on WSL2. Any other input on that, guys? Yeah. 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 Okay. So, Windows is poopy. So I think that's all I have to say about that. Let me mark that one. And we're going to be, we'll call it a day here. Did I miss anything before I leave? So we did, a terminal is different than command line. Terminal emulators replace teletype machines. We should probably put origins of a terminal. Yeah, different than command line shell. What about Alacrity or Kitty? Choose Git Bash on Windows. My favorite theme, Groovebox. Why not just use Vim plugins as VS Code? What about WSL2 on Windows? I mean, that's 2 hours of stuff, so I think that'll get you guys through. Day 4, get the terminal. So day 5, before I leave, so you guys can get ready for tomorrow. Now, day 5, I have not even organized yet. So if you guys have to go, I understand. Day 5, seriously, look at this. I have not broken it down at all. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of breaking it down before tomorrow. This is one of those things where we're just gonna cover as much as we can and just go, you know. And if you want to watch me, I'm gonna drop the stream, just so I have the cutoff point, and I'll be bringing up the stream again, and I'm going to be building my personal .files container. 6 hours when? Which one was 6 hours? Oh, my other videos? Yeah. The videos are long. Please tell me this video doesn't have 6 hours on it, though. How long is this video? It should not be. Yeah. You guys are talking. You're talking. I can see you in the back chat. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm never going to do more than 2 hours a day. And even that, if you want to wait around for, it's going to get smaller, and I'm going to cut videos out of that, so it'll be even shorter. So people during the year who want to watch it won't have to. If they want to watch all the banter and breaks and talk about dogs and stuff in between, they can. But the Pomodoro has been helping me really stay on task. So for tomorrow, what's the container? Why should I care? Install Docker. What's the difference between a container and image? Docker basics. Manage the Linux for container. I don't know, man. I think we can probably get here. Learn to use the Linux terminal. Yeah, this is the terminal stuff is where we start to get really into it. And I already did the difference between a TUI and a GUI. Actually, I need to put that up here. I did that already. Yay. Sam, are you okay? She's like, can you hear her? She's like panting out loud. She's terrified. Yeah, we're just going to be playing with our first containers tomorrow. So if you want to get ahead of the curve, install, get your terminal working and install Docker Desktop. That's it. If you have a Linux system, you're not going to be installing Docker Desktop. You're just going to be installing Docker on Linux, which is a different thing. Okay. All right. I am going to drop the, I don't know, I guess we could raid somebody for fun for a bit. So we got everybody here. I'm going to be gone for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and I'll be coding. I'm going to be doing some Docker work actually tonight, building my own .files repo. So if anybody wants to watch that, you can stop by and watch it. I'll be doing a lot of shell scripting, stuff like that. So yeah. Oh wow, look at you go. Wanma. Who's that? Oh, Freeman's up. How to build a PC. Code help and advice. Defend a bot. Anthony writes code. Those are all great people. On regarde comment marche la Twitch API pour faire un layout. C'est tout en français ça. The desktop didn't work on Mac. Docker Desktop didn't work. Did you get Docker installed from the command line? How did you get it on Mac? Through the terminal? Did you do it with Brew? I that's something I haven't tested yet, and we're going to cover it tomorrow. So that's why I was asking. I do not have an M1. I'm pretty sure. With Brew, okay, yeah. Well, okay, that's good. I mean, that's what I would normally tell people. You really can't have a Mac without Brew these days. I mean, let's just be real. You can't. You have to have it. It's like I used Mac and Brew for 3 or 4 years while I was a skill stack for everything. Most of my first Go code was on a Mac. Use Cask. I haven't used Cask that much. Been a while though. Hot Tub Subathon. No. Oh wow. We got a big thunderstorm outside. Did you see the lights? We're gonna lose our power. Damn. Hey Vera. Oh my God. There's like a serious thunderstorm outside right now. Like really serious. Like I'm gonna get electrocuted. I'm gonna get all my coat. I have all my stuff is in a bar, so if it blows up, I won't blow up. You know what? I'm gonna put the fish on and leave the stream on. If you, I'm not gonna rate anybody. If you, because I'm gonna be right back writing code. So yeah. So you guys can just watch the fishies, and I may even actually let me just do this. Let me stop the stream so that I have a stream that I can publish immediately. I'll be right back.